Hello there. I'd like to welcome you all to this webinar around the SAP Information Steward 4.1 release. This was released at the end of last year, December 2012, and includes a great deal of new functionality which builds on the existing 4.0 release. So to start off, we're just going to have a quick overview of who ENTOTA are, what we do, and our specialist areas that we concentrate on. Then we're going to go into a very brief introduction of SAP Information Steward, particularly for those users who haven't used the tool before. I would like a very quick overview before we investigate the third point here, which is the new features and major enhancements that we can get in the 4.1 release. And I'll go over this in some detail. There will also be a very quick demonstration, which will also go through the main functionality changes that you can get, just to give you a flavour of the additions that have been created in this new release. So just a quick bit about ENTOTA really. We're the largest specialist SAP information management consultancy in EMEA. We have particular focus on the data services and information steward background. And we have a track record of delivering successful projects through the industry best practice, thought leadership and innovation. We have a strong SAP relationship. We are an SAP service partner and an SAP best practice solution development partner. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself and my link with this information steward. I've been a consultant now for over a year and a half, specialising in SAP information management, specifically with Information Steward from its initial release. I'm currently responsible for all the Information Steward acceleration and best practice methodology that is offered by ENTOTA, and I'm currently heading up a global SAP Information Steward rollout as a major pharmaceutical manufacturer. So, what is Information Steward? There are three main areas within the SAP Information Steward tool that you can split it into: the discover, the monitor and remediate, and the define stages. So firstly, when you have your data, the first thing you want to do is discover your data. Now with Information Steward you can do this in one single environment. So initially when we see our data, we want to analyze the quality of it, the initial quality, before we do anything with it. How good is the quality of our data? So this can be done with data profiling as well as metadata management, which you will come on to later within the new tool. The second thing we want to do is define. So we've discovered the quality of our data. So now how do we define that? How do we define the rules, the various definitions we have, so everyone can use it, so everyone understands it? That is one of the main aspects of the Information Steward tool, to create that link between the IT and the business people. So both people can understand that data and understand the quality and how you can improve on it. Which brings us to that third point, the monitor and remediate. The information shown forward can then track and capture the quality of your data going forward. So you can see whether it's improving, whether it's getting worse. So we can then fix our data. Now that will come at a later stage. So I'm now going to go through the SAP 4.1 additional features. So this is a rough run through of what we're going to be going through. So you recognise here we have the four main tabs that you'll be familiar. Data Insight there at the bottom, which we're going to run a demonstration on later. We have Metapedia, which is used for creating the taxonomy of terms that you use to create that link between your business and IT terminology. There's Metadata Manager, which enables you to track lineage from one system to another. So whether you've got an error in your source data, you want to track how that's affecting your other systems or reports. And then the other tab that you'll be familiar with is the Cleansing Package Builder, and we'll briefly go through some enhancements that exist within that as well. You'll notice here we also have something called Match Review. Now that's a new tab within this 4.1 edition. We'll come to that in a second. It's got some really interesting new features there. So firstly, Metapedia. So with this new release, there's a much easier user interface, and it's got a much richer interface than was previously available in the 4.0 version. There's now enhanced term descriptions entry and rich text format, which enables you to quickly click on a term and see where else we're using that within your data. There's also now an approval process for Metapedia content to stop people without that security for creating or editing previous Metapedia terms. And there's all a richer shareability and usability about it. So we can now associate Metapedia to the Data Insight rule and scorecards. You'll notice that it's quite a feature of this new release is the ability to share and use your information within Information Steward a lot more than was previously available. So, onto metadata management. As you can see here, we have some additional systems and warehouses that we can now integrate with. So we have the Business Warehouse Integrator, which we can now collect metadata for each field, and we can show the impact and lineage at that Business Warehouse field level. In addition to this, there's also now a Relational Database Metadata Integrator, which supports Windows authentication for Microsoft SQL Server. There's also a Data Services Metadata Integrator, so we can now link it to things like SAP HANA, and we can also use it for performance improvements to support large-scale deployments. So there's enhanced impact and lineage calculations, resulting in shorter waiting time for diagrams to display. And it's also much quicker with reduced time to collect metadata for reports and universes in an SAP BOE or SAP BI platform source system. So it's much quicker and much easier to use. So now onto the cleansing package builder. You'll notice there's a interesting change here. So we've gone from what used to be over 20 separate cleansing packages split regionally into one simple to use global cleansing package. Enables the user to now cleanse the data through the package across multiple regions or domains with just one single data cleanse transform when exported to data services. There's also now an advanced mode domain support for person and firm cleansing package. In addition to this, there's also ability to specify the domain when importing the Data Services 3.2 dictionary. So now onto the new tab. Now this is brand new for the 4.1 release and provides a very useful addition. So as you can see with the diagram below, it looks at your data and will provide you with matches according to what the system sees as a similar record. So here, when you're analysing your data, you can look across multiple systems and decide, is this record unique or is it duplicated somewhere else? Now you can set these variants, so as we can see here, we have a match review score in the second column of 89. Now this is customizable and you can set what you want your match score to be. So if you're seeing a duplicate record may exist between 80% and 100% and you want to look at it, then the data is going to, when running the match review, you're going to bring back all those results that are very similar, and it enables you to make an informed decision on whether you can remove that data or whether it's a genuinely unique record. So this is very useful. when looking to consolidate multiple systems. So it's very useful for addresses, customers, those kinds of things. It delivers direct cost savings straight away by eliminating that redundant data in your system that you don't need, and improves the business process efficiency immeasurably. This is a very welcome addition to the 4.1 release, and it provides a much richer addition to the platform as a whole. So just to go through some new administration and installation features which also have been included in this 4.1 release. So we now have a capability to monitor workflows, so the Information Steward workflows with the Intrascope Enterprise Manager. We also now have SAP HANA database support for the ICE repository. So it's now supported not only as a source for data insight profiling, but also as a database platform, in addition to the data services offering that we previously had before. We also have support for web application servers, so it can now support the new SAP NetWeaver 7.3 application server, as well as Apache Tomcat 7. In addition to this, there's also various new standalone utilities for administrators. So also brand new to this 4.1 release is the addition of web services and additional information around this area. So it now includes a software development kit for web services developers that facilitates the access to view particularly Metapedia content using their choice of programming language. So for example, an example of the Metapedia that can be accessed, including search and retrieval of the following, include term descriptions, the data stewards, the URL of the Metapedia term, associated keyword, etc., etc. So we can use all these, and developers can tailor this to their needs. Also, an interesting development using the Web Services edition is that developers can now create widgets or plugins so the user can easily access all their Metapedia business terms. So you can include this into Microsoft Office applications, including your basic Word, your Outlook, PowerPoint, or Excel. So they have quick and direct access without having the need to go into the business intelligence platform to retrieve their Metapedia content. Also, the Service Development Kit now includes support of several SAP authentication methods. By using authentication and session management, so authorized users can be logged in and out without compromising the security of the platform, or unauthorized access to Information Steward specifically. So now we come on to the main additions and ones that may interest you more than the other features within the 4.1 release. So at a high level, before we get into the demonstration, there's now improved scorecard analysis and sharing. And remember what I was saying earlier about the addition, the more usability and the friendliness of the new tool. So we can share more than we ever could with the 4.0 release. And I know that was a sticking point, particularly when I've worked with customers, and maybe for you too, the ability to share that data, particularly your scorecards and your profiling results. And we'll come to that in the demo. There's also customizable extensions to the rule definitions. If you remember, there was a very rigid format of the rules. That's been made more flexible, so a user can edit that and make rules to their specific needs and categorize them how they would like to see them. There's also enhanced content export and import capabilities. Now this also is a welcome addition for when transporting your projects and all your data that you've created before, because there were some limitations around that before. Another incredibly useful one, which you may have found some issues with in the 4.0 release, is the inability to create outer joins within Information Steward. This has been fixed, and I'll show you that in a second. And as I say, the last point there, the ability to share all these results is the main feature, I think, of this 4.1 release. So now I'm going to go into an instance that I already have set up. So as you can see within SAP Information Steward, we now have that extra tab that I was talking about, the My Worklist tab or the Match Review tab. The format is very similar to that before, and you won't notice too many changes. There's a few new buttons which I'll also go through with you in a sec. So I've just got an example view here which I'm going to take you through, particularly with the changes to this view. So if you notice here before, we only used to have 3 tabs. We used to have, when creating a view, we used to have output schema, your join conditions, and your filter conditions. Now you can also see there's a 4th tab, which is a group by. Now this is very welcome, particularly with the addition of the outer join capability. Speaking of that capability, you can see here we've used this. Before, you could only inner join, which is very frustrating, because if you wanted to create an outer join view, you would have had to done it in data services in the background and import it like that. But now there's no need, and we can create this within Information Steward itself. Also, because of this, we also have now the new group by option. So when we do join, we can group by specific fields if you need to. Now this provides a much better user friendliness and means less development we'll have to do in the background outside Information Steward. One of the second big changes is the changing to the rules. I mentioned it was much more customizable with before, and you can see that here. If you remember before, you could only set a rule under one level, and that was according to the quality dimension, which we still have here in this 3rd column, but before it was above each rule. Now this was uneditable before, but now we can change it to suit our needs. So whether you want to split your rules regionally, if you have a different rule for North America as you do for Europe, this enables you to do it and categorize it and find your rules much easier. Now this is limitless, and you can decide where you want to order it. You can either put it above that particular rule, or here we've also created a customizable one called department. So this rule is specific for Europe and the sales area within Europe, similar for North America, specifically for the finance region. You can add as many of these as you would wish to make it easier to find various business rules associated with that area of the business. This is a much welcome addition to the 4.1 release. Just go back here into the first tab, and I'll just talk to you about the profiling. So before, profiling was a very useful and interesting tool, but the one problem I had, particularly with customers and other users, was how do I share this with the business? How do I get it out there? Well, now we have the ability to put it into a spreadsheet format by exporting it at the top here. So you can see here we have an option now to export profile results. Now this is of vital importance if you want to share this with senior management or other members of staff, to just give them a very quick overview of your data. So the next area we're going to see a change to the functionality to is within the scorecard area. Just open this up. So there's a couple changes in here. Firstly, ability to edit the score range. Before, you could only view between your whole range of data, between 0 and 10. So now if you have subtle change in your data, you can see that at a much better level by zooming into your scores, like so. So we can see a much greater depth the changes in our data. Now possibly the most important and biggest addition to this 4.1 release, which is briefly shown earlier, is the ability to share your scorecard. Of all the customers and all the people I've dealt, it's the one question they all ask. How can we share this? How can we send this to our other users around the world, or nationally, or even senior management? How do we do this? Well, now, with the addition and usefulness of the web services, we can also share it by URL. So we can see here, we can now use this URL to put in various documents, whether it be a PowerPoint presentation, or crucially, which is also very useful, you can combine it in Business Objects Enterprise with any BI applications you have. So you can create one single environment to view all your scores and your reports. So we can see here, just by clicking on it, it opens up a new tab. We can now see the exact functionality that we saw before, but now available outside of the Information Steward interface. It's incredibly useful and is a big change to this release. Finally, the last big change that we experience in the 4.1 release is the export and import options. This is a huge advantage and means we don't have to rebuild as much content as we did before, as we can now export whole projects as well as also the tables that we have. Particularly if you create a view, you can now export that. There are various other subtle little changes within Information Steward 4.1, but I've just gone through the main points here. If you require any further information, then please contact ENTOTA. So now we've covered the major enhancements and changes within the 4.1 release, we now have to analyse those major considerations when employing an Information Steward solution. So firstly, where does Information Steward fit within your security model definition? Is there an initial or an existing governance structure to base this model upon? This is a very important consideration, as you need to know where Information Steward fits in your landscape, what you want to use it for, how you're going to use it, how long you're going to use it for. Also, secondly, and a major issue, is connectivity to your application landscape. Now, Information Steward obviously has the ability to connect directly to your systems, whether it be using your legacy systems for a migration or a brand new system to track data quality going forward. So will you connect directly? Remember, this can impact your performance, so you have to think carefully how you use it. Or do you put it in use an ETL tool, such as data services, to stage the data, which is a much safer option and will not affect your system's performance directly. So as we discussed in the very initial slide, when we discover, define, and then monitor and remediate, what is your remediation process? It's all very well identifying all that data you have and the quality of it, but if it needs to be fixed, particularly in a migration scenario, have you agreed on the process for remediation of that bad data? Will you manually fix it, batch fix it, or use an MDM process? This should be agreed in principle before you start using Information Steward. You need to work out how you're going to fix it. Also, using Information Steward as a firewall, so rules can be implemented to stop that bad data coming in the first place. If you've defined your business rules, why don't you use them to stop the bad data coming in the first place? Prevention is always better than cure, so this is a good consideration to take upon. Also, the monetary value to the business for every rule. You may experience some customers, I certainly have, who want to include tons and tons of rules. Do you really need all those rules? What monetary value is that giving to your business, and how important is that? Whether it's monetary, whether it's legal, you need to understand this. So the business ownerships of these rules will be greatly increased if the value can be shown, and this is very important. That brings to the end of today's presentation. Information Steward 4.1, as you can see, has many additional features which can be used. And I think the key word we can gain by the addition of this 4.1 release is usability. The way that we can now share it with other business users, management, to make it a much more user-friendly tool. If you would like any more information, then please contact ENTOTA, www.entota.com, or initially if you want to learn more about Information Steward, including another webinar with the initial 4.0 release, and please also check out our YouTube channel. And thank you very much for listening. Thanks and goodbye.